Welcome back, Mush Puffs, new and old. This is 3-Minute Movie Reviews. This week I've got two brand new lady movie reviewers. We're going to take on one of my favorite movies of 2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that starts right now.
Here's your winner and
Might be my arrogance, but ain't nobody stopping me. That's how I go when you pay for them shows and you study that pimp biology.
That's right. Welcome back. Dead on Dave here, Copious Lord. And we are taking on Quentin Tarantino's insta-classic Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And like I said, we have two wonderful reviewers, and we're not going to waste too much time. You know how this works. 3 people, 3 reviews, and this week it's just one movie. And I'm very excited about it, so let's not gild this lily anymore. Let's start it off, and let's take it to one of our favorite people, one of the best that we had last week, Trivial Theater. Roll it.
2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Tarantino's latest movie, which falls into an area of historical revisionism films including Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained. This particular one includes events surrounding the murder of Sharon Tate by the Manson family cult. Now, in this particular version, the outcome is a little different, and in a year of movies whose subject at least partially involves the Sharon Tate murder, it's far and away the best of the 3. Our main story revolves around aging actor Rick Dalton and his stand-in/stunt double Cliff Booth, played by Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt respectively. After being fired from a TV western for his alcoholism, Cliff acts as Rick's driver as much as his stuntman. Over the course of the movie, we learn Rick's new neighbors are director Roman Polanski and his wife, upcoming actress Sharon Tate. While most of the movie's action does revolve around the lives of Rick and Cliff, we do get glances here and there of Roman and Sharon. This comes to a head on August 8th, 1969, when Cliff and Rick are hanging out at Rick's place. At the same time, Manson family cult members approach the house with a very noisy bumper. They're told off by Rick, and instead of attacking Sharon and her guests, they go after Rick and Cliff. Needless to say, the outcome is kind of enjoyable. So for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a middle-of-the-road Tarantino film. That doesn't make it a bad movie. There are lots of elements that did work for me. The acting is amazing, but more so than that was the set design. It oozes 60s, and there was clear time and effort put into making it feel as authentic as possible. The storefronts were specifically done up to match how they would have looked 50 years ago, down to the window dressings. Even more so than that was the ability to shut down parts of the highway to make sure every vehicle was period accurate. Even the ads on the sides of the buses were products from that time. Where possible, restaurants with 60s era decor were used, including the El Coyote, the very restaurant Tate ate at the night she died. They actually went so far as to film in the booth that she sat in. You can see the love that Tarantino put into the small details of this movie, and it's part of the reason it took home an Oscar for Best Production Design. Being a huge fan of classic movies, seeing all the personalities of that era, however they were portrayed, was a real treat for me. Now, there were 2 scenes that stood out as absolute faves. The first was Rick's climactic scene in the Western Lancer, where the transition between rehearsal and actual takes is great. It's slickly edited, and it's just a really dynamic scene. Rick's practice with a flamethrower also stands out as a really fun set of scenes, and his line to the weapons expert,
Alright, that's too hot. Anything we can do about that heat?
Rick, it's a flamethrower.
Yeah.
continually makes me chuckle. Having said this, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't really feel like a Tarantino movie to me. Until we get to the very last bit of the film, there really isn't the gore that I've come to expect from one of his works. That's not necessarily a bad thing, just a point that I kept waiting for throughout. Like shots of women's feet, it's one of those things that defines his work. Despite that, I had fun with this movie.
Fantastic job, Trivial Theater. Would expect nothing less from a pro like you. We're not going to waste any time, though. Let's get right into it, because it's my turn. 3 minutes on the clock. 3, not 2. Go! All right, so no secret, I love this movie. I fell in love with it every time that I've seen it. I've found more to love from it. So basically, we follow the stories of Rick Dalton and his sidekick, his wondrous stuntman Cliff Booth. And we get to see a lot about these two in their ups and downs throughout their trek in Hollywood. We get to see this backdrop of them trying to resurrect Rick's career while being a newly neighbor of Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Now, we get to see throughout the course of a few days, because that's all this movie really takes place over. With a 6-month gap, it really only takes place over a couple of days, and we get to see all of these things that happen to these different characters and all the different life changes, things that they allude to. We don't need to see Sharon actually get the news that she's pregnant. We get this wonderful scene of her driving, and the music that's playing kind of lets us know that she just got the news that she's pregnant. It's on the same day that she gets to go see her biggest movie that she had release. It's just, there's so many things that they do without going too far overboard of explaining what we just saw. Little slices of moments, these memories, these little subtle things. Charlie Manson coming to the house. Quentin, throughout the course of the movie, writes this wonderful love letter to 1960s Hollywood and before, with everything from the television era, with cowboys and just TV shows in general. He really shows how much he loved that era and really followed everything that was happening with Manson and Sharon Tate. And he kind of lets us draw our own conclusions of what he thought actually happened. There were many different points in the movie where I think they point to different conspiracy theories. Even when Manson comes to the house, we get to kind of determine for ourselves, was Sharon Tate kind of taken aback? Did she know Charlie Manson? Was there something that we didn't see? They also gave us many points in the movie that Sharon may have had a life of being a hippie herself before all of this superstardom happened to her. But again, Quentin doesn't ham-fist it. He kind of puts it up there and lets us either, accept it or deny it. And it's a really cool way of telling a story that puts it in our own hands. Choose your own adventure, but on the screen. And that's a really cool thing. But we don't only get that. We get this wondrous journey of Cliff Booth and the things that he may have done or didn't do in his previous life. His interactions with Bruce Lee, who they also tie into Jay Sebring and Sharon. And that's a conspiracy theory all in its own. There's all of these things, but it never feels like the story of Sharon and Charlie and Roman ever overlap and take over who the true heroes and protagonists of the movie were. And that was Leo and Brad, who finally won an Academy Award. He got robbed for Interview with a Vampire, and you all know it. I went over 3 minutes, but goddamn it, I'm the host. I can do whatever I want. There it is. That's my review, and 9 out of 10. It's my second favorite Quentin Tarantino movie of all time, slightly behind The Hateful Eight. That should get some people talking. Go ahead and tell me what you guys think of that. All right, let's move it on to our final reviewer, a brand new reviewer to the channel, Miss Perfect Paradox. What did you think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Tarantino is one of those directors, for me at least, where he's either brilliant or misses the mark. Since I don't have much time, I'll get right to the point for you. Overall, this movie sucks. It's long and arduous with a total runtime of 2 hours and 40 minutes. And let me tell you, you know it's a 2 hour and 40 minute movie. Your butt sure tells you it's that long, and so does your bladder. Now, this movie received 10 Oscar nominations and won 2. Brad Pitt won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and it won for Best Achievement in Production Design. As usual with all Tarantino films, he uses an all-star cast and one that he is familiar with. The two most noteworthy characters are Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. DiCaprio approached his character from a very interesting angle, as an actor acting as an actor within the movie. DiCaprio did an excellent job differentiating between when he had to take the reins and shine on the movie set of his show and films within the film. His true acting abilities can be seen during these times in which he was almost dumbing down his skills, so that during the other times he could truly showcase his talents. And trust me, there is a scene that I found myself holding my breath. Now, as for Pitt, he was just brilliant. He goes throughout the movie appearing to constantly be a man who is always on edge, like a man who is one insult away from beating the ever-living life out of somebody. Makeup and costume did a fantastic job portraying the time period. Now to the music. I have a theory about music in movies. My theory is that if there is good music in a movie, either a good original score or well-placed known popular music, then the movie is usually rather good. This movie has followed my theory. Throughout the movie, time period music was used oddly and often. Almost like someone said, oh, you know what other song would be cool to use? This one, and threw it in there haphazardly into a scene for just the hell of it. The songs themselves are good, don't get me wrong. It's just their placement and use is overused and bizarre. Music is meant to be added to a scene, and instead, it almost took you right out of it. The last 5 minutes or so of the movie is fantastic. 5 minutes of good does not make an entire movie. Even if there were strings of interwoven storylines that ended up coming together in the end, it still wasn't a big enough payoff. Even with the superb acting by the leads, it still does not hold the movie together. It's a perfect example of how a movie needs a script, actors, makeup, score, and costumes to really make everything mesh. This movie just didn't have the combination, and it showed. I came out of the theater saying, who really cares? Well, that and where's the nearest bathroom? Thanks for listening to the 3-minute ramblings of a madwoman, and back to you,
Perfect
Dave.
Paradox, bringing the fire this week. All right, look, I love this concept. I love this idea because we get to see 3 different takes on how we want to explain what we love about the movies that we're taking on. And hopefully that's exactly what you guys are getting. And I got to thank Trivial Theater and Miss Perfect Paradox for fantastic jobs this week. We want to see more people come on board and give us their opinions. We want to add you to the team. So if you have opinions on movies that you want to share with the masses, feel free to hit me up at DeadOnDave on Twitter. Very easy way to get a hold of me. DMs are open. And we're going to be doing different movies each and every single week, bringing in different reviewers each and every single week. And you can change up your style. Give us new takes, new thoughts, new ways of explaining why we love or hate these movies. I want to hear from you. So hit me up, please. DMs are open. You know, final thought, though, before we go, and once again, big thanks to Trivial Theater and Miss Perfect Paradox. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really is one of those films that captivated me, and I've watched it so many times in a short period of time that I feel like I am intimately acquainted with these characters. And it also helped that I had a little bit of interest in that time period and in some of the events that they take on. It really was a lot of fun. And I want to note that there's a couple things that should be happening this week with this movie. Quentin is going to kind of expand this movie a little bit. And we're going to get the 4.5-hour mega director's cut. Apparently, that's how long it is with all of the deleted scenes, the extra stuff that they cut. There's a lot of Charlie Manson scenes that we didn't get to see, and apparently it's going to add a lot more depth and texture to a movie that's already bursting at the seams. But you know what? More is not always a burden. More is sometimes more, and especially when it's a good thing, I'll take it. Speaking of more, we're going to be getting even further awesomeness from this little slice of world here because Quentin has announced that he's also going to be doing 5 episodes of Bounty Law, apparently on Netflix or Amazon or one of the streaming services. 5 episodes of Jake Cahill's show, Bounty Law. Now, we have no idea if they're going to get Leonardo DiCaprio to play Jake Cahill, you know, and all that stuff. We don't know. I'm hoping, but we'll see. It should be a lot of fun. Regardless of what they do, it should be a blast, and I'm looking forward to it because apparently Quentin wrote 5 episodes. He wrote them out already. It already happened. He did it while he was making this movie. So really loved it. Thought it was great. I can't wait to see what he does with furthering it. So let me know what you guys thought of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We want to hear from you and what you thought of our takes on the movies as well. Thank you so much for being here with us, and hopefully you enjoyed it. We will see you next time right here on Dead on Dave on the YouTube. Follow me on Twitch. Check out my merch store. Everything's down below. If you need copiousness, I'm your one-stop supplier. We will see you next time. Keep it copious, folks, and remember, as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends. Bye-bye.